India is a democratic country, and India is governed on the basis of the Constitution. Indian Constitution is the supreme law of the country, which lays down the structure and principles which define the fundamental political principles, procedures, powers, and duties of the government systems. Fundamental rights are incorporated in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution, and we also have the directive principles which are incorporated under 4 of the Indian Constitution. And these directive principles of state policy or DPSP are the guidelines or the principles given to the central and state governments to keep in mind while framing the laws and policies in the country. The Indian Constitution is the world's lengthiest written constitution. It also describes and sets out fundamental rights, directive principles, and also the duties of the citizens in this country. It is also described as a permanent living document which makes the government systems work. The country is governed on the basis of the Indian Constitution, and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar is the one who is considered as the chief architect of the Indian Constitution. Finally, the Constituent Assembly, which adopted the Constitution on November 26, 1949, and the Constitution came into force from January 26, 1950, the day itself we celebrate as the Republic Day. The Constitution of India begins with an introduction that is called as preamble. It comprises the ideals, objectives, and basic principles of the Indian Constitution. The Indian Constitution assures its citizens of justice, equality, liberty, and it also promotes the fraternity among the citizens who are living in this country. The Indian Constitution declares India as a sovereign, socialist, secular, and democratic republic. The original 1950 Constitution is preserved in the Parliament House in New Delhi. The words secular and socialist were added to the preamble by 42nd Amendment Act in the year 1976 during the emergency. If you see the salient features or the important features of the Indian Constitution, Indian Constitution is a written constitution. Salient features of Indian Constitution. Indian Constitution is a written constitution and it is the lengthiest constitution in the world. For framing this Indian Constitution, it took 2 years, 11 months, and 18 days. When it was adopted, it was consisting 395 articles in 22 parts and 8 schedules along with the preamble. At present, it consists of preamble, 25 parts containing 448 articles, 12 schedules, and the Indian Constitution is amended 104 times after it is adopted. The last amendment, which was came into force on January 25th, 2020. The Indian Constitution is a combination of rigidity and flexibility. The Constitution of India is a unique document which is of combination of rigidity and flexibility. Generally, a constitution may be defined whether it is flexible or rigid. It is decided based on the basis of its amendment procedure. In a rigid constitution, amendment of the constitution becomes very difficult or not so easy or easy, etc. In a flexible constitution, amendment of the constitution is easy and simple. And in India, the Constitution of India provides three categories of amendments. First category of amendment can be done by the two houses of parliament with simple majority of the members present and voting by the members before it is sent to the president for the final assent. The second category of amendment of the Constitution requires a special majority and it can be passed in each house of the parliament, the both houses, which includes the Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, by the majority of the total members of that house, as well as the two-thirds of the majority of the members present and voting in each house of the parliament. Then it is sent to the president for his or her assent and which cannot be denied. The third category of the amendment, besides a special majority, which is mentioned, like it requires a special majority and it can be it has to be passed by the both the houses of the parliament by a majority of the total members and at the time of voting the members, two-thirds of the members has to be present and they have to vote in both houses of the parliament. Then it has to be sent to the president assent. Along with that, the special majority mentioned in the second category, the same has to be approved by at least 50% of the state legislatures. Federal polity, India is a union of states. India has adopted a federal structure of government where the government is there at two distinct levels. The first one is the central government or union government, what we call, and the second one is state governments. Both the central and the state governments have their own powers. The fundamental rights and fundamental duties. The Constitution of India guarantees fundamental rights, which are included in Part 3 of the Indian Constitution. And these rights include right to equality, right to freedom, right against exploitation, right to freedom of religion, cultural and educational rights, right to constitutional remedies, and later on, right to education also was also made as a fundamental right. After that, right to information is also considered as fundamental right of the Indian citizens. It is guaranteed under the Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. After that, the right to privacy is also now considered as a fundamental right, which is protected under Article 21 of the Indian Constitution. These fundamental rights, which covered under Articles 14 to 32 of the Indian Constitution. And these are one of the important features of the Indian Constitution. And the fundamental duties were added to the Constitution by 42nd Amendment in the year 1976. And there were 10 fundamental duties which are recommended by Sardar Swaran Singh Committee, and later on in 2002, with 86th Amendment to the Constitution, one more fundamental duty is added to the existing 10 fundamental duties which were proposed by the Sardar Swaran Singh Committee. The fundamental duties were added to remind the citizens of this country that they have certain obligations towards the country and the society. It is fundamental duty of each citizen in this country to further the national integration and contribute towards a betterment of the society. India is a parliamentary form of democracy. In a parliamentary form of democracy, there is a close relationship between the legislature and executive. The president here enjoys a more abundant powers, but in practice, the Council of Ministers, headed by the Prime Minister, which really exercises these powers, and President implements on the advice of the Prime Minister and the Council of Ministers. Integrated single judicial system. India has a single integrated judicial system with Supreme Court as the apex court of the judicial system. The high courts in all the states are below the Supreme Court, and these high courts control and supervise the lower courts like district courts. Independence of judiciary. Judiciary system in India is independent and impartial. It is free from the influence of the executive and the legislature. The judges are appointed on the basis of their merit or their qualifications. Single citizenship. There is only single citizenship in India, which means every Indian citizen is a citizen of India, irrespective of the place of his birth, his or her resident or place of birth, and can secure employment anywhere in the country, and they can enjoy all the rights equally in all parts of the country. Universal adult franchise. The Indian Constitution provides universal adult franchise. Anyone who has completed age of 18 years, irrespective of his, her caste, creed, sex, religion, has the right to vote in general elections and choose their representatives by voting in favor of them.